Day number 4, curse story. I am a failure. What does that mean? I'm a failure. Oh my gosh, I failed so many times. I feel like a failure. And now I know that I'm a failure. Do you see what happened there? I'm a failure is an identity. Like this is what you think you are. I am Ruble. Instead of Ruble, I'm replacing with failure. I am John, you're replacing it with failure. So you're saying, I am failure. I am a failure. Do you see that? It became an identity. So when it becomes an identity, it's a big challenge. It's a big challenge. The next step is failure. Failure is an emotion. Like you're feeling a certain emotion. So identity is one level. The next level, the level below that is emotion. Failure is an emotion. You feel failure. Right? You feel failure. And if you feel enough failure, you feel like you are a failure. You feel enough emotion. If you say you're depressed for a long time, if you are depressed for a long time, what happens after some time? What happens is you say, I am depressed. It becomes an identity. Same way, if you fail and feel the emotion of failure so many times, you start to feel that you are a failure. So I am a failure is an identity. And the second level is failure, which is an emotion. Failed is a verb, right? Failed is a different level, which is a verb, right? So like I failed, okay, something happened. I fell down. It's a verb, like it's an action, right? It's an action. It's something that has an action potential. So you fell down and I failed. You know, I stumbled, right? I looked like that, I failed. So it's a verb. So do you see the 3 layers of failure? One layer of failure is like failed, which is a verb. The next is failure, which is an emotion. And then I am a failure, which is an identity. So these are the 3 layers where failure is associated in human mind. So how do we handle all of this? First of all, if you feel that failure is an identity for you, it's time to step down to failure as an emotion. If you're feeling failure as an emotion, it's time to step down to failure as a verb, because now you're disassociating this emotion, this thing called failure, this verb called failure. Now all of a sudden this becomes an action. This becomes an action. So when you look at it, you feel like something like, okay, I fell down. And just because you fell down like 3 times, you're not going to say that, oh, I'm a falling down. I don't say I'm a falling down. I would say I fell down. I fell again. I fall all the time. You might say that, but you never say, I am a falling. Makes sense? This is what happens to failure, because we associate emotion with this falling, the stumbling, enough that we start to feel that we are that emotion. Makes sense? That's what we're going to change today. So how do you do that? So let's jump straight into it. How do you handle it? The way you handle it is you handle it by changing the curse story associated with failure. So anytime you fail, when it transitions from a verb to an emotion, there is a curse story to it. There is a story that is pulling you back, that's splitting your identity, that is pulling you backward. That's what a curse story is, something that pulls you backward. We need to transform that into a blessing story, a story that empowers you. How could you even like think about changing a failure into a blessing story? I'm going to demonstrate how to do that. But before that, understand this. Your brain, it's like a computer. It understands only intensity. It doesn't understand failure. It doesn't understand success. Those are 2 different intensities. It's like you go to a dog and all of a sudden, if the dog is really excited, it might jump. If the dog is really sad, it might jump too. The dog only understands that sensation of intensity, right? Probably pain and pleasure. That's it, right? So for the brain, it doesn't understand failure and success because it's too abstract for the brain. So you understand it because you created a meaning for it. You start to think that, oh, this me falling down like 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, that means that I must be a failure. Now that became a curse story. So for me, curse stories are stories that are limiting us, that are pulling you backward. Blessing stories are stories that are pushing you forward, that are inspiring you to do bigger things in life. So that's how the curse stories are designed. Go back to other videos on how to change curse story into blessing stories. I think it's a previous video in this series. You will understand more about how to change it. But right now, I'm going to actually do this intervention with you. So this way you could transition. If you are in like place of identity, You could transition to emotion if you're in emotion, transition to verb. So you see failure as something that is natural. Because if a kid has to learn how to walk, it has to fall down. And every time it falls down, it starts to think that, oh my gosh, I'm such a failure in walking, then it would never walk, right? So we need to figure out a way to get your brain to think that failure as a verb rather than an emotion or an identity. That's what we're going to do today. So let's get started. So let's say if you believe that I am a failure, that you are a failure, it has a story with it. So it has a beginning, it's a middle, and it has an end. How did the story start? Probably you failed one time in something. Maybe in school, maybe you didn't do pretty good, or something else. So think about the storyline behind your belief that you might be a failure or you are a failure. Now, find that story. I'll give you like a few seconds to find that story. Good, pretty good, pretty good. So you found that story. So this story has three elements in 2 dimensions. Okay, dimension number 1, there's a beginning, there's an end, and there's a middle. Okay, so middle has to be in the middle finger area, right? So beginning, middle, and the end. That's one dimension. Another dimension, in a psychological dimension, the story has a meaning, an emotion, and a context. One more time. The story has a meaning, emotion, and a context. Like, what is the story about? That's a context. What does it mean to me? It's a meaning. And the emotion is, what am I feeling from this story? This story might be feeling like, for example, making you feel vulnerable or sad or depressed or something like that. And the emotion is not empowering. It is a curse story. Make sense? Okay, so there is a lot of science behind it, but I'm going to give you the nutshell of how to transition this right now with me right now, right? You ready? If you're ready, put that in the chat. Say, I'm ready. Okay, cool. Let's get started. So look at this story from beginning till end. Really quickly, the beginning, the middle, and the end. So now, what is the context of this? In order for us to find the context, what does this mean? What does this mean to you? Okay, you failed 2 times. You failed 20 times. Like, you failed so many times. So what? You failed, you fell down multiple times. Why you failed too many times? Because you tried. You're willing to take risks in spite of the fact that you failed 90 times. If you failed 20 times, because you are willing to do it again. What a profound human you are. So what's the meaning? So the meaning of the story is about you being profound, about you being a challenger, you being somebody who's not willing to let it go. That's a new meaning. Or what could it mean to you? Something that empowers you. Maybe it's about your perseverance. Maybe it's about your consistency. Maybe it's about your determination. Maybe it's about your will to make it happen. What does this story mean to you? What else could it mean to you? Okay, cool, beautiful. Put that in the chat. Now, what's the new meaning of this story? By the way, the miracle is now. The miracle that people are talking about is right now. Because the moment you change the meaning of the story has changed its energy. The same thing that was limiting you, it's all of a sudden becoming something that is helping you to move forward. Something that is helping you to free yourself, to claim your highest destiny. Because you have a new meaning for the story. But we are not stopping there. What is the new emotion? Remember, I told you there are 3 psychological things behind the story. The second one is emotion. What were you feeling before? You're feeling sad, mad, cheated, being confused, depressed. What are you feeling now? Now that you have this new meaning, what's your new emotion now? Excited, empowered, happy, joyful? Put that in the chat. What's a new, write down new emotion and write down the emotion. What is a new emotion now? And like I said, now we have merged 2 magics. Because the story that was pulling you all this time, because you associated that meaning. I'm not blaming you for associating that meaning, but your brain thought that's the best way to handle this situation, and it associated a meaning for it, that was disempowering you. Now the failure has a meaning, because most of us who really became successful in life, we became successful by failing left and right. Failing in emotions, failing in relationships, or failing in business, failing in managing money, failing in managing a team, or something like that. And then they figured out fast. So you failed too much, you are going for the top. You are going towards 1% of people in the world. So what is a new emotion? Put that in the chat. New emotion is this. Now, finally, based on this meaning and this emotion, what is the context of this story? This is a story of a legend, or this is a story of a loser? Probably until today, you might have thought that, oh my gosh, what a loser I am, or what a failure I am, what a miserable life I have, versus what a profound life you have, what a profound goal you have, what a profound level of consistency you have, perseverance you have, your determination to win and claim your highest destiny. Now it's a new context of you. Because when you change the story, you're changing the essence of you, the essence of you, the essence, the direction of you. Because until now, this story was pulling you backward. Now, the ties are untied. You're free to move forward in life. So what's a new meaning? One more time. What's a new emotion? What's a new context? Write down in chat. This is my new context. And now it became a blessing story. And that's it. That now it became a blessing story. Life is that simple. Because if you feel like you are a failure, and tomorrow we're going to talk about another way, another challenge that humans are facing. For example, I was rejected. We're going to handle that tomorrow. But today was about, I'm a failure. It's no longer truth. Is that true for you? It's no longer truth, because you are not failure. You are a committed person. The context has changed. Now the meaning has changed. Now the energy has changed. And your destiny has changed too. I'll see you tomorrow with day number 5, curse story. I was rejected. How to confirm, how to convert. I was rejected into me feeling accepted. See you tomorrow.